Imagine the tension in a packed hearing room at Capitol Hill, where every heartbeat echoes like thunder. The air is thick with anticipation as Jasmine Crockett, a fiery Democratic Congresswoman, prepares to confront Marco Rubio, the seasoned Republican senator known for his calm demeanor and sharp wit. In this charged atmosphere, Crockett aims to expose what she believes are deep-rooted ethical issues tied to Donald Trump's business dealings with the United Arab Emirates, UAE. With her heart racing, she stands ready to challenge the very core of foreign policy decisions that could have far-reaching implications. As the chandeliers above glimmer ominously, Crockett's voice cuts through the silence, echoing her accusations about Trump's billion-dollar projects in Dubai and the controversial cryptocurrency contract with a UAE-linked company. Her words resonate with urgency, questioning whether these actions represent mere coincidence or a blatant conflict of interest. The audience holds its breath, captivated by the potential fallout from this political showdown. But across from her, Marco Rubio remains unfazed. His eyes gleam with confidence as he prepares to defend not just the administration, but also the strategic partnerships vital to U.S. interests. This isn't merely a debate, it's a battle for the hearts and minds of the American public, where the lines between ethics and politics blur amidst the clamor of partisan agendas. As Crockett lays bare her concerns, viewers can't help but wonder, will her boldness ignite a movement for accountability? Or will Rubio's seasoned tactics quell the flames of dissent? Stay tuned to witness how this confrontation unfolds and what it means for the future of American governance. The accusations begin. Crockett leaned forward, her voice steady but firm, each word carrying the weight of scrutiny. "Mr. Secretary," she began, her tone edged with determination, "we are witnessing a serious issue. President Trump, who still owns the Trump Organization, just announced a billion-dollar Trump Tower project in Dubai. Just one day later, his cryptocurrency company, World Liberty Financial, signed a $2 billion contract with a UAE company closely tied to that country's government. And just 11 days after that, your State Department announced it would bypass this committee's hold to sell over $1 billion in weapons to the UAE. Is this a coincidence, or is this a blatant conflict of interest?" The room fell into a tense hush. A Democratic congressman nodded subtly, his expression reflecting quiet approval. A reporter in the corner quickly scribbled notes, sensing the gravity of the moment. Crockett didn't let up. She held up a printed screenshot from World Liberty Financial's website, her voice rising with conviction. "Right here on this company's website, it clearly states that President Trump and his family own 60% of the shares. He's not just a figurehead, he directly benefits from these deals." She took a breath, letting the information settle before pressing further. "Meanwhile, your State Department approves weapons sales to the same UAE government despite concerns about human rights, particularly the situation in Sudan. Mr. Rubio, how can we trust that this isn't personal gain dictating national policy?" Her words hung in the air like an unspoken challenge. Crockett stood tall, her gaze locked onto Rubio, daring him to respond. Around her, the atmosphere was electric. Her allies, like Congressman Meeks, watched intently, their expressions a mix of anticipation and concern. Crockett knew she had struck a nerve. She had spent weeks preparing, poring over every detail of Trump's business entanglements, ensuring she had undeniable facts to back her claims. From the Dubai deal to the financial disclosures on the company's website, she believed she had built an airtight case. This wasn't just about policy, it was about integrity. The American people deserved transparency, and Crockett was determined to demand it, no matter how powerful the figures involved. A calculated response. Marco Rubio remained seated, his posture composed, his fingers lightly tapping the table, as if keeping time with an unseen rhythm. His eyes sharp and unreadable, flickered with the precision of a seasoned tactician calculating his next move. Crockett had delivered a heavy blow, but he showed no signs of being rattled. Instead, he allowed the silence to stretch, letting the weight of her accusations settle before responding. It was a deliberate tactic, one meant to assert control, to remind everyone in the room that he was. After a few seconds that felt like an eternity, Rubio finally spoke, his voice low and measured, yet carrying enough authority to command attention. "Congresswoman Crockett," he began, his tone neither defensive nor dismissive, but rather analytical, as if dissecting her words under a microscope. "I understand you want to craft a compelling story, but let me clarify one thing. U.S. foreign policy does not revolve around assumptions or fabricated narratives." His words landed with precision, striking at the core of Crockett's argument. She had framed the discussion around ethics and potential corruption, but Rubio deftly shifted the focus toward broader national interests. "Our relationship with the UAE is a critical part of our national security strategy," he continued, his voice gaining momentum. "It has been strengthened through achievements like the Abraham Accords, a deal that brought peace and stability to the Middle East." A murmur rippled through the room. Some Republicans exchanged knowing glances, recognizing the brilliance of his pivot. Crockett had aimed for scandal, but Rubio was turning the conversation into a defense of diplomatic progress. He wasn't denying the existence of Trump's business ties. He was simply reframing them as irrelevant to the bigger picture. Crockett's jaw tightened. She had anticipated resistance, but not this level of strategic redirection. She needed to regain control, to steer the narrative back toward accountability. But before she could interject, Rubio pressed forward. "You're trying to turn a policy decision into a personal conspiracy," he said, his voice tinged with mild sarcasm. "But that's not the truth. Our alliances are built on mutual benefit, not shadowy dealings." The room buzzed with reactions. Some reporters scribbled furiously, capturing the exchange as a battle of ideology versus suspicion. Others glanced toward Crockett, waiting to see how she would counter. She had expected pushback, but not this calculated dismantling of her argument. Still, she refused to back down. She straightened her posture, gripping the documents in front of her, as if anchoring herself to the facts. This was only the beginning. Holding the line, Crockett's frustration simmered beneath her composed exterior. She had laid out the facts: Trump's ownership stake in World Liberty Financial, the timing of the UAE business deals, and the subsequent weapon sale approval. But Rubio had sidestepped the ethical implications entirely. He had pivoted to foreign policy, using the Abraham Accords as a shield while refusing to engage with the core issue of potential conflicts of interest. If she allowed him to continue deflecting, the entire line of questioning would lose its impact. She exhaled sharply, then stepped forward, her voice rising with renewed intensity. "Mr. Secretary," she interjected, her tone cutting through the murmurs in the room. "I'm not asking about the Abraham Accords. I'm asking about President Trump owning stakes in companies doing business with the UAE, profiting billions of dollars, while your State Department approves weapon sales to that same government." She paused, emphasizing the point. "This isn't about policy, it's about ethics. Can you answer the question directly?" Her challenge rang out, demanding a response that couldn't be evaded. Across the room, Democratic lawmakers sat up straighter, sensing a shift in momentum. A CNN reporter in the corner jotted down Crockett's words, already envisioning the headlines. "Congresswoman grills, Secretary of State over Trump's ethical dilemma." The pressure was mounting, and Crockett knew she had to keep pushing. Rubio, however, remained unfazed. He tilted his head slightly, his eyes flashing with amusement, as if he had anticipated her attempt to reassert control. He didn't rush to reply. Instead, he let the silence stretch once more, allowing the tension to build. When he finally spoke, His voice carried a subtle edge of mockery. Congresswoman Crockett, you're trying to paint a picture where every policy decision is tied to a conspiracy, but the reality is this. Any president, regardless of party, has to work with the UAE. He leaned forward slightly, his tone sharpening. They are a strategic partner, not just in the Abraham Accords, but in regional security matters. The president's family business dealings are irrelevant to these decisions. Do you have any concrete evidence that the president issued orders based on personal gain, or is this just speculation? Crockett felt a surge of heat rise in her chest. She had expected evasion, but the outright dismissal of her argument stung. She quickly flipped through her stack of papers, searching for the document she needed. Finally, she found it, the printout from World Liberty Financial's website. Holding it up, she countered, her voice resolute but slightly rushed. Mr. Rubio, this is evidence. The company's own website openly states that the Trump family owns 60% of the shares. They're doing business with a company tied to the UAE government? She gestured toward the document. And just days later, the State Department overrides Congressman Meeks's hold to sell weapons. You call that speculation? Her accusation landed with force, forcing the room into a brief but palpable silence. A Fox News reporter in the corner scribbled furiously, eyes gleaming as if they had just witnessed a defining moment in the exchange. Crockett saw an opening. She had presented verifiable proof of Trump's financial stake in the UAE-linked company. Now she needed to drive the point home. Taking a steadying breath, she continued, her voice lower, but no less determined. The American people deserve to know the truth. If a president profits from deals with a foreign government while making decisions that favor that government, shouldn't there be transparency? Shouldn't there be accountability? She turned her gaze toward Rubio, locking eyes with him. Or is that too much to ask when it comes to the president? The room tensed again. Crockett had forced the issue back into the realm of ethics, challenging not just the administration's actions, but the broader question of presidential conduct. Would Rubio continue to evade, or would he finally address the heart of the matter? A battle of wits, and Will Rubio's lips curled into a barely perceptible smile, his eyes gleaming with the confidence of a seasoned debater who had just spotted a flaw in his opponent's argument. He tapped his fingers lightly on the table, a small but deliberate gesture that drew attention without breaking his composure. Then, in a voice laced with controlled sarcasm, he responded, Congresswoman, the truth is this. You're trying to turn a policy decision into a scandal, but it doesn't change the fact that the UAE is an indispensable partner. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze unwavering. If you want to talk about ethics, look at the organizations receiving billions in unchecked aid. That's the issue worth investigating, not baseless assumptions about the president. Crockett's heart pounded harder in her chest. She had expected Rubio to deflect, but the way he effortlessly redirected the conversation frustrated her. He wasn't addressing her central question, whether a president profiting from foreign deals while shaping policy decisions posed an ethical dilemma. Instead, he was shifting the focus to unrelated issues, attempting to drown her argument in a sea of distractions. She glanced at Congressman Meeks, seated nearby. His expression was one of concern, silently urging her to find a way to pull the debate back to the core issue. She needed to regain control. Taking a deep breath, she quickly flipped through her documents, searching for another angle. Her voice, though still firm, now carried a hint of urgency. Mr. Rubio, she said, her tone lower but insistent, you may dodge this question today, but the American people won't forget. They'll see what's happening. A president getting rich from foreign deals while making policy decisions. She looked directly at him, her eyes blazing with conviction. You can deny it all you want, but the truth will come out. For the first time, Rubio's amusement faded slightly. He raised an eyebrow, his gaze sharpening as if he had detected a crack in Crockett's armor. He straightened in his chair, his voice now carrying a note of finality. "Congresswoman Crockett," he said, his tone polite but firm, "if the American people want the truth, they'll see that we're working to protect national interests, not chasing fabricated stories." He allowed a pause, letting his words settle before delivering what he likely intended as the final blow. "If you want to continue with these questions, I suggest you bring concrete evidence instead of attention-grabbing assumptions." The room erupted in applause from the Republican side. An aide behind Rubio beamed, clearly impressed by his ability to dismantle Crockett's argument so efficiently. Crockett, however, remained standing, her hands gripping the edge of the table as if anchoring herself to the last vestiges of control. She knew she was losing ground. Her initial confidence, which had burned so brightly at the start of the exchange, was now flickering under the relentless pressure of Rubio's calculated responses. Still, she wasn't ready to concede. She scanned the room, searching for support among her colleagues. A few Democrats nodded encouragingly, but the majority of the audience, including journalists and undecided spectators, seemed to be leaning toward Rubio's perspective. He had successfully reframed the debate, portraying Crockett as someone manufacturing controversy rather than uncovering wrongdoing. Determined not to let the moment slip away completely, Crockett took one last shot. "Mr. Secretary," she said, her voice regaining some of its earlier sharpness, "you may win this round, but the fight for transparency isn't over." She turned to the presiding chair, her shoulders squared with resolve. "I yield the remainder of my time to Congressman Olaf." With that, she stepped back, her eyes fixed on the documents in front of her, as if searching for answers she hadn't yet uncovered. Across from her, Rubio remained seated, his posture relaxed, his expression one of quiet satisfaction. He had weathered the storm, turning what could have been a damaging interrogation into a demonstration of his political acumen. Reporters scribbled furiously, capturing the moment as a victory for the administration. Crockett, meanwhile, knew she had fought valiantly, but had been outmaneuvered by a master strategist. The clash had ended, but the war for public perception was just beginning. A nation divided. The moment the hearing concluded, the political landscape erupted into a frenzy. Across news networks, social media platforms, and late-night talk shows, the Crockett-Rubio showdown became the focal point of a deeply polarized nation. Every outlet spun the event through its ideological lens, amplifying the divide between those who saw Crockett as a fearless champion of accountability and those who viewed Rubio as a defender of national interests against baseless accusations. On cable news, the debate played out in real time. CNN analysts dissected Crockett's arguments, praising her for raising critical questions about ethics in high office. One commentator emphasized the importance of scrutinizing presidential business dealings, stating, "This isn't just about Donald Trump. It's about setting a precedent for transparency and leadership." Meanwhile, Fox News painted a starkly different picture. Their coverage framed Crockett's line of questioning as an unsubstantiated attack, with hosts highlighting Rubio's ability to remain composed under pressure. "Jasmine Crockett tried to manufacture a scandal where none exists," one anchor declared. "Marco Rubio reminded us why he's one of the sharpest minds in Washington." Social media exploded with reactions within minutes. Twitter users flooded timelines with heated debates, memes, and video clips of the most dramatic moments. On conservative-leaning accounts, posts mocked Crockett's efforts, labeling her performance as desperate and politically motivated. "Crockett came in swinging but left the ring dazed," read one viral tweet, accompanied by a clip of Rubio's final rebuttal. Liberal voices, however, rallied behind Crockett, applauding her for confronting power head-on. "She asked the hard questions that need to be answered," wrote one user. "Just because Rubio dodged them doesn't mean they don't matter." Beyond the digital sphere, the ripple effects of the hearing extended into political circles. Congressional offices buzzed with discussions about how the encounter would influence upcoming hearings and legislative strategies. Democratic lawmakers debated whether Crockett's approach had been effective or if a more data-driven approach was necessary to land a stronger blow against the administration. Meanwhile, Republicans celebrated Rubio's performance as a testament to his resilience and strategic prowess. That was a masterclass in handling opposition, one GOP strategist told a reporter. Rubio didn't just defend Trump, he reinforced the importance of strong foreign policy alliances. Even outside the political arena, the debate seeped into everyday conversations. In coffee shops, classrooms, and online forums, Americans engaged in impassioned discussions about the role of ethics in governance. Some argued that Crockett had done exactly what elected officials should do, challenge power and demand transparency. Others insisted that Rubio had rightfully refuted what they saw as sensationalist accusations. The hearing had become more than a congressional exchange. It was a reflection of the broader struggle over truth, accountability, and the boundaries of political discourse in modern America. The Crockett-Rubio confrontation serves as a masterclass in the art of political strategy, offering valuable insights for aspiring leaders navigating the complex landscape of governance and public discourse. At its core, this exchange highlights the importance of preparation, adaptability, and the ability to frame narratives effectively. Crockett's bold attempt to challenge the administration showcased the necessity of courage in holding power accountable, but it also revealed the pitfalls of entering a debate without fully anticipating the opponent's tactics. Her reliance on factual evidence was commendable, yet the lack of a clear, compelling narrative surrounding those facts made it easier for Rubio to redirect the conversation toward broader policy goals. In contrast, Rubio exemplified the seasoned politician's playbook, remaining calm under pressure, leveraging strategic pauses, and adeptly pivoting the dialogue to suit his agenda. His ability to reframe Crockett's questions into discussions about national interests illustrates the power of narrative control in political discourse. For leaders aiming to navigate contentious issues, this underscores the importance of crafting messages that resonate beyond immediate facts, appealing to the values and priorities of constituents. Moreover, the incident emphasizes the significance of emotional intelligence in political interactions. Crockett's passion and conviction were palpable, yet her frustration at being sidestepped highlighted the delicate balance required to maintain composure while advocating for crucial issues. Leaders must cultivate the ability to manage their emotions, channeling them into persuasive arguments rather than allowing them to cloud judgment or provoke reactionary responses. Additionally, the aftermath of the hearing reveals the critical role of media in shaping public perception. Both Crockett and Rubio understood the power of framing their narratives through various channels, showcasing the necessity for politicians to engage proactively with media outlets and social platforms. Aspiring leaders should recognize that public opinion can be swayed not just by the content of their arguments, but also by how effectively they communicate and connect with audiences. Ultimately, the Crockett-Rubio showdown encapsulates essential lessons for anyone seeking to influence policy or lead in a polarized climate. It reinforces the idea that successful political engagement requires a blend of tenacity, strategic foresight, and emotional intelligence, reminding us that the true measure of leadership lies not only in the questions asked, but in how one navigates the inevitable challenges that arise in the pursuit of accountability and justice. Embracing accountability in governance. As the dust settled from the intense exchange between Jasmine Crockett and Marco Rubio, a broader conversation emerged about the importance of accountability in governance. The questions Crockett raised resonated deeply with many Americans who yearn for transparency and leadership. Yet the dynamics of political discourse often obscure the lines between genuine inquiry and partisan maneuvering. In a society increasingly divided along ideological lines, it becomes imperative for citizens to cultivate critical thinking skills that enable them to discern the motivations behind political statements and actions. Encouraging open dialogue about ethics and accountability is essential, as it fosters a culture of responsibility among elected officials. Engaging in constructive debates allows individuals to voice their concerns and advocate for reforms that promote transparency and integrity in government practices. This commitment to dialogue not only strengthens democratic institutions, but also empowers citizens to hold their leaders accountable for their actions and decisions. To further enhance understanding and engagement with these critical issues, consider subscribing to our channel for more thought-provoking discussions on the complexities of governance and the ongoing quest for accountability in today's political landscape. Together, we can foster a more informed electorate ready to navigate the challenges of modern democracy.